Jannik Sinner with momentum on his side, but how is his draw for this year's U.S. Open? What's going on, everybody? It's John Arapoli with the U.S. Open getting started tomorrow. Taking a look at some draws, and that coverage, of course, going to continue into round one here. But anyway, guys, the topic of today's video is Jannik Sinner, the world number one, and the guy that I predicted to win this year's U.S. Open. Here is the one thing I will say, though, about Jannik Sinner and that prediction. The draw for Sinner, it's bad. However, kind of like my video on Iga Swiatek that I posted earlier today, it's very doable here for Jannik Sinner, guys. When you take a look at his draw, the big one, of course, is going to be Daniil Medvedev. Those two guys would meet pretty late into the tournament. But still, again, that one there, those are two guys that are going to, swing it out. Two juggernauts going at it. Two guys very capable of winning this year's tournament. And that kind of is what it is. But again, that would take place later in the tournament. Outside of that, though, guys, I mean, you have to somewhat kind of like the draw. It's not, I would say, a layup for Jannik Sinner, but definitely very favorable. For example, Tommy Paul is on Sinner's corner of the bracket. Now, Paul's having a pretty good 2024 overall, but again, okay, not a layup, but if it's Sinner versus Tommy Paul, I still like Jannik Sinner in that matchup. Okay, somebody else in this corner of the bracket, if they were to play each other, would be Stefanos Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas, again, very talented, but given the way, the inconsistencies that we've seen out of Tsitsipas over the last few years, including this year's, there's been some highs of highs and lows of lows for Tsitsipas. If it's Sinner versus Tsitsipas, I still like Sinner in that matchup. So again, okay, there's a few guys that are definitely capable of beating Jannik Sinner out there for sure. But at the end of the day, despite this being a bit of a bad draw, it's absolutely doable for Jannik Sinner. Big question for me, again, like I said in my prediction video, is how's the mental state for Jannik Sinner after that news broke about his positive steroid test back in March, and I did a whole video on that. You guys can check that out there. But how does Sinner respond to that? If he's mentally dialed in, given that rough news that kind of broke and having some people talk bad about him and whatnot, as long as he's mentally dialed in, guys, I really like Jannik Sinner in this year's 2024 U.S. Open.